Tonight's the night. I think I'm feeling all right. Wow, everybody, good to have you with us for Bury Your Bookie. Jeff DeForest, we got Mike Jones ready to go, and I can see he's chomping at the bit, as they say, because college football, huge slate tonight of college football games. Gets a remarkable weekend of college football. I mean, week 0 was one thing, and you had the game in Ireland, and a lot of people liked Iowa State, and then we got crushed like a grape, shoved a pigskin right up our ass when we lost that Stanford game last week, as Stanford is driving, and Frank Reich, bless his heart, Frank Reich, who you think is probably going to do some good with the Stanford program, decides to throw a pass late in the ball game when Stanford's driving. They're running the ball right up the rear end of the Rainbow Warriors. Looks like they're going in for the winning score or driving for the winning score. They get picked off, goes back the other way. You lose to a field goal kicker that literally has a remarkable story. Guy that wasn't even a field goal kicker, right? And he just ended up walking onto the team. He drills his 38-yarder, and the next thing you know, you're getting 2.5, and let's face it, you're fucked. You end up losing by 3 and lose to the dagger. We all know that the hook is the biggest gaffe in all of sport fishing. It just drove it right through our heart. So we got off to a little bit of a suspect start there, but I mean, look at what's on the slate this weekend. I don't know that I've ever seen kind of an opening week like this, Mike Jones. How are you, by the way, and how excited are you for
I'm
tonight?
very looking forward to this weekend. It is. It's a slate that I think will put in direction the 12-team playoff. I believe that the Clemson LSU game is probably the loser could be having some pressure on them if they don't get in. So and Notre Dame Miami also in that same kind of line. So I think we got some interesting games and should be really exciting. Young quarterbacks, veteran quarterbacks, first round draft picks, where the things fall. I think there's a lot of really good stuff happening this weekend.
All right, the dogs are barking, and that's why we're going
Yeah.
to be here with a pick that a lot of people seem to be on the side. And I think you alluded to this early on a couple of weeks ago when you were looking at the schedule. South Florida and Boise State.
Mm-hmm.
Boise State, as we've mentioned here on the program, has the third most wins of any college program since 2003. They don't have Ashton Genty. They travel about 2,500 miles to go to Tampa to play the University of South Florida. South Florida has a quarterback that is reminiscent of the days at UCF of Dante Culpepper, a big guy who can run and throw the ball,
Mm-hmm.
has a big arm. They're well prepared. Everybody likes their coach. They were getting 6 in a hook. It's now down, the last time I checked, to 5 in a hook. That may be an old line. I don't know if there's been any update on that. And it seems like, Mike Jones, virtually every handicapper that I've seen, read, or spoken to loves South Florida in this spot. And I believe that you're on that very same bandwagon.
Yeah, I've kind of liked South Florida's program now for the last couple of years watching them. They've had some real bad up and downs. I know East Carolina tore into them a little bit last year. I was watching that game and shocked as they kept giving up big play after big play. But I just think the starting off national TV game, ESPN, Boise State, national power coming in there. Tough spot to travel all the way from Boise all the way down in here to Tampa. A little hotter, a little humid, little things that they might not normally deal with in prep. I just got a sneaky suspicion this game is going to be closer than the experts think. Now I got it at 6.5, so I feel pretty good. The 5.5 is kind of a dead number. You know, when you see games show up at 5.5, they usually don't end that way. There's 2-point conversions that are usually involved in 5-point spreads. So anything can happen, but I just got a sneaky suspicion South Florida is going to be in this game. Just a hunch, but I think some people agree with me.
All right, I'm looking at the slate here, and this is amazing. I don't know. Is it a 5-day holiday weekend or something? Because
Yeah.
I'm really surprised at how inundated with games and how many games. I'm just looking at a grid here. I don't even know if this includes all of the games, and I think it has like 16 games that they've listed the point spread on in my beloved New York Post gambling page here. Any others tonight that are of interest to you? I was reading a story about Greg Schiano, who we had here at the
Yeah.
University of Miami for a while, a long time ago, as a defensive coordinator. Of course, he went on to Rutgers and then ended up coaching the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for a while. Bit of an ill-fated adventure there. Comes back to Rutgers, and he's in the Big Ten now, so sort of up against it. The anticipation for the season is that Rutgers will probably have a winning record this year
Yep.
and may even go somewhere around 500 in their Big Ten games, which is saying a lot and showing progress. But one thing they do, and it looks like they've accelerated their ability to put points on the board this year. And they're talking about how Shiano's going to go away from his Woody Hayes-like style of 3 yards in a cloud of dust and try just not to make mistakes and maybe open up the passing game. They did put up 40 in their last 2 games last year, and so they're favored by 15 and a hook in a game over Ohio. Any games on the board? I mean, if you want to touch on that one, that's fine. But any games on the board tonight that attract your attention?
And actually, that was one that did. I think Rutgers comes out and plays. I think 15 is a little high. Odds makers are telling you something. Big Ten going against the MAC. Ohio's always been tough in the MAC. They get to the finals often. They're a respectable program. Just got a sneaky suspicion now. Shiano going to get it done here. Lay the 15 with Rutgers. Don't usually like laying double digits, especially this early in the season. But that'll be another game, as I talked about yesterday on the Bleacher Brothers, is that the live betting is something I will be inquisitive to look at here. Early start, so it keeps your night going. Haven't seen the later games get going. Nebraska, Cincinnati later, Wisconsin's later. So you have a chance early on in the game to get a feel, and we'll focus and watch this game. Maybe a first half bet might be here, minus 8.5, 9. Lay Rutgers, see they get out to an early lead, hopefully hold on. But I think Rutgers is up for, a 500 year or better in the Big Ten. I think they're going to be competitive in a lot of spots. The travel in the Big Ten might be when the West Coast teams come east to play them. It'd be interesting when they move out west. It's a lot more going on in the Big Ten, than normal. I like Rutgers in this spot just to open up with a win. I think it's a proper scheduled game. It's a respectable first game. I like what Rutgers is about to do.
All right. Anything else attract your attention?
Yeah, I like the Nebraska Cincinnati game. Been a big fan of Matt Rule for a long time. Very competitive. Got his team to play hard. Think he's going to turn Nebraska around. Don't know if it is tonight, but on a neutral field in Kansas City, Nebraska laying 6.5 to Cincinnati. Again, I just like where Nebraska's headed, and the quarterback is a really nice player. I like Nebraska in this spot also. I know it's tough. I see a lot of people online looking at Cincinnati as a live dog in this spot. I just think Nebraska is ready to turn that corner and get to the 8-9 win plateau and have a successful, Big Ten year and possibly play be looking at early November as games that could probably hopefully get them in the playoff. I think they're going to be a ranked team by the end of the year.
If you're looking to get down on Nebraska, I think you could go straight to our good friend, the professor. He'll join us tomorrow because he is not nearly as positive as you are. In fact, he thinks Nebraska is a good bet on under their total for the season. He's been touting that for the last couple of weeks here on the show.
Yeah, it's just he's a different type of coach, but I think if new ownership doesn't come in Carolina, Matt Rule probably survives that run there. And I just think the guy, I love his I love what he means. The kids really rally around him. Nebraska has been a power, and they've been lacking for years. And I thought he might be the guy to turn around. So I'm really kind of buying more into the coach and his NFL experience and what he's done and how he's going to recruit players because of his NFL experience, as to say that it's taken him time, but we'll see if we need a professor. We'll end up going at that. I'll probably take his action if he wants on the total and say I'm going to go.
Side bet going there from guys on the show. The Friday slate not as appealing as the next couple of days will be. Saturday, of course, and Sunday has some marquee games, and then you got the debut of Belichick and your South Carolina Gamecocks playing on Monday. I guess the most appealing game there in terms of competitive concepts, and it is the lowest spread on the board on the Friday slate is Auburn and Baylor, which could be of some significance. I don't know. Are you going to dabble? I'm sure you'll be in action.
Yeah.
It's hard to resist, but anything on the Friday card?
Baylor played a little better toward the end of last year. Auburn's coming. People are high on Auburn a little bit. I probably would probably watch that game and look at it before I make a decision, but because it's SEC, it's very popular in my household as we're an SEC household, so my eyes will be glued to it. And again, it's like so many to go this weekend. We're going to talk about the big three on Saturday and Sunday that are happening. It's just a great slate, so don't need to pick and choose every game. But if I had to gun to my head, I would probably take Auburn in the spot.
All right, so maybe you're saving your money on the Friday card a little bit and trying to get to Saturday, which opens up with a blockbuster right at high noon
Yeah.
showdown there at the Horseshoe. I mean, how could you not be looking forward to this? Even if you're the most casual of college football fans, you have Ohio State hosting Texas. Texas with the much celebrated quarterback Arch Manning coming in. You have a new quarterback starting for Ohio State. Ryan Day and Sarkisian have both been suspect at different times with their decision making, as all coaches are. Everybody's capable of being second guessed. The fact that you had two standout wide receivers that probably go in the first round of the draft in the NFL on Ohio State, and he decides to run the ball up the gut against Michigan, incurring yet another career damaging loss to the point where the Ohio State Buckeye fans were screaming, "We got to get rid of this guy. We got to get rid of this guy." Then he goes on, wins the national championship. Now he's got a kid named I want to say Just Saying. Saying is the quarterback for Ohio State, the guy
Mhm.
they chose. Arch Manning. Look, the epitome of everything that you would want, representing the dignity of a guy that was willing to sit in the background behind Quinn Ewers with the transfer portal. I think Sayin just transferred from Alabama right
Okay.
after Nick Saban decided to retire. So you don't have guys that stick around anymore to be second string with the NIL money that's being dangled out there. What do you make of Ohio State and Texas? Because I mean, Manning, we've seen on the field, he is a two-way threat, and you have an incoming guy that doesn't have the same even level of experience as Manning for Ohio State. They do have the home field, and they are favored in this game. What do you think? Can Texas go in there and pull off the minor upset?
I can be humbled in this game. I am a Manning fan. You know that from my love of the Giants and
Yeah,
our two rings with our boy, with Uncle Eli.
yeah.
Man, I'll tell you, I love the kid. I love playing. I was surprised when Quinn Ewers kept moving in front of him. There was something there. I think this is just a tough spot to go up and play the national champion on the road in a home going to Columbus. It's a different spot for him, and he's the man. And is there pressure now? Manning family seem to handle pressure pretty well overall. Um, is he the pedigree's there for him? Yes, I would believe that, but I got to see it. And the big part of this, which makes it fun from a gambling perspective, I seem to be in the minority pretty big, thinking Ohio State's going to win this game. Now, I'm sure if I went to Columbus, people would agree with me, but seems like nationwide. Watching ESPN this morning, everybody picked Texas. Yesterday, I was in the minority on our show. I just think I want to see it first. I'm going to pay the home team laying 1.5. I like the fact in this particular spot that the number dropped. A game like this that has so many eyes on it, I'm going to say that maybe it's not the smart money to move that down to 1.5. I'm getting Ohio State, a defending national champ, 1.5 at home. When is the number one team opening week been a dog? Very rare that it happens. There's got to be a reason for it. I'm going to take my chances that Just Saying does the talking, and he, he comes out and plays well. I just, it's going to be a tough spot for Texas to go up there, but I think this could be the preview of what we might see it, in January.
Ohio State coming off the national championship. Julian Just Saying. Well, would that be an appropriate nickname? Maybe
Love
we
it.
can get credit for that when everybody starts referring to him as Julian Just Saying. But we'll see. I'm kind of with you a little bit on this game, and I don't know. I mean, obviously, it looms as somewhat of a toss-up, and we'll see. Arch Manning could come out there and just light up the world. Sarkisian has done a good job at Texas for the most part, except for that one stupid call that he had in the playoff game
Mm-hmm.
when he decided to pitch the ball and go wide. And we talked about dumb calls that have been made over the history of sports. We were thinking, hey, well, why not run Marshawn Lynch with Pete Carroll in that game against the Patriots that led to the Super Bowl? And yet I wasn't as critical of that decision. I mean, clearly, if you're playing a result, it was a bozo move. But I thought if you're going to go for it, I believe it was a second down play, and Lynch had been just powering his way through the defensive front in that ball game of the Patriots. But if you were going to try and use any kind of element of surprise, the play was there. Russell Wilson throws the ball behind the receiver who seemed to be open. Tough play on the inside. A lot of stuff can go wrong, chip ball, whatever. So maybe it's a suspect call from that aspect. But looked to me like the play was going to work, except Butler ends up making a great play. Sark throws a pitch and runs wide when he's in a similar situation in the college football playoffs. And that's a piece of territory where you can't afford to go backwards 5 or 6 yards.
Yeah.
now you don't have a chance to redeem yourself if the play doesn't work, and sure enough, it ended up costing him a chance to win the championship. So interesting that Sarkisian comes in there, but with Texas and going against Ryan Day, I think it's a tough spot. I just really do. Going on the road and playing that game, regardless of the hype that surrounds
Yeah.
Arch Manning. So he'll probably throw for 400 yards and run for 3 touchdowns, and
Yeah, but again, I like that. This is easy pickings for everybody else but us if we think Ohio
yeah,
State's got a chance. So that's what I'm seeing. So when
I
it
don't
looks
see how
like
they
he's
don't have a chance. Yeah, I mean, obviously
yeah,
they're favorite too. So
right. I mean, it's a pick 'em game, and we grabbed the coin earlier on. Is the best defensive player in Caleb Downs probably going to be a top 5 pick in the draft? Is he on Ohio State? Is Jeremiah Smith, who I think is the best player in college football, he's on Ohio State? I mean, and they're home. I probably think Texas would be a 6-7 point favorite on the road if the game was in if the game was in Austin. But you know, I just think I want to see it first. Let me lose my money on this
yeah.
particular game. I'm going to have the crowd with me, which is a big betting tool when you're rooting for your money to hear the people roar when your money looks good. So it's kind of like one of those things where you like to have the home team in this spot earlier on, but I don't know. Uh, I like your line. Just you know what I'm saying. That's what it's going to be. You know what I'm saying. Let's get him in there. Let's see what happens. Played at Alabama. Nick Saban recruited him. Obviously, he knows he can play. Now, obviously, Ryan Day thinks the same thing, getting him up in Ohio State. There is an adjustment with the portal for everybody that when all these kids come in and what you're going to get out of them once the chin strap gets buckled up. But I'm looking forward to this one.
And that's the thing. There was a song a long time ago by a guy that had an avant-garde sort of rock jazz band, John McLaughlin, guitar player, and the song was called "You Know, You Know," and I don't think you know that much anymore because
Yeah.
the other thing on that song on that album I was going to reference was "Vital Transformation." And you've seen these teams go through vital transformations. 70 new guys on some rosters. I think you do have to tread lightly early in the year, even if you're dealing with marquee matchups like this with teams that have great
Mhm.
histories. But there's so much transformation going on that I don't know that anybody can sit there and definitively say, "Hey, this is how this is going to go," until you see one. So
Right.
that's another just a word of caution there, because if you're emptying your bankroll, unless you have some serious inside information, it might not be the most wise approach first week. All right, ACC, SEC in basketball. You probably go, although the SEC certainly came on as a basketball conference the last year or so. Clemson, LSU. Many people feel Clemson will dominate the ACC. They don't catch the University of Miami, who would appear to be the only serious challenge. I believe Clemson was 2-1 to go undefeated in conference play this year. So you're only getting 2-1 on that prospect.
Mhm.
They take on LSU, which you're looking at. Brian Kelly leaves Notre Dame. And now, look, everybody that's at LSU seems to be on the Ed Ogeron hot seat. What do you make of this matchup? Clemson looks like they're laying 3 and a hook against
Well,
LSU.
it dropped then because it was 4.5 last time I saw. I'm gonna take a quick look here. But yeah, no, this is a great matchup. I was saying yesterday, I think the loser can't refer to their stadium as Death Valley anymore after today. I think only one term can be used, Death Valley, and it probably will be the death of one of these two teams, which is my prediction. I think the fall is that if you lose this game, it's be a problem. So we saw it drop. You're absolutely right, from 4.5 to 3.5, which in this particular case I kind of like because I'm thinking I'm on LSU a little bit. Here's my thought with LSU. Um, Brian Kelly made this move significantly enough that for these kind of games and being able to have this kind of tools and talent to go down there. I texted with a friend of mine yesterday who's close with Brian Kelly and said that he's really happy with where his defense is, but is scared about Clemson's talent. Said that Clemson's probably as loaded as any team in the country, but we're going to test the quarterback out. Now, on the other end of the field, I kind of really I've always have liked Kate Kublik, the quarterback for Clemson. As a diehard Giant fan, I was praying he was coming out this year because he was the guy I wanted, although I did want Jackson Dart. Kublik was a guy I'm very, very attracted to as far as his talent and his game resonating to the NFL. I think this is the quarterback matchup of the weekend. Two guys that probably top, 15 picks. We hear there's going to be 6 guys in the first round of quarterback. So if you're watching for your pro team, this is the game you want to be attracted to. And again, it's really tough to go on the road and play in Death Valley. This game normally I would think would have been on a neutral site. Now they're moving the game down into Clemson. Tough spot for LSU, but this is what Brian Kelly's got to know, how the sense of urgency. You can't keep losing the opening game and to let your season go into a little spiral where you have to chase games midway through the season to stay in it. And he hasn't made the playoff, and his idea was brought in there for a national championship run. So my prediction is I think LSU gets by this game just for those factors alone. As much as Clemson is who they are, Dabo's, struggled in the last couple of years trying to get kids. He changed a little bit of his routine, dipped into the portal slightly, has a great recruiting class, has great talents, always had NFL players at Clemson. South Carolina got their number last year. There hasn't been upside, but let's see if the prognosticators are right that this Clemson team is a national championship contender, and we're going to see it. But in this case, I'm going to take my chances about the pressure on Brian Kelly. He gets his guys revved up and the players know it, and I think he gets it done. Might sneak out a win, but I think the 3.5 is a safe bet.
All right, the other marquee game takes place on Sunday right here in our hometown of South Florida. Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, coming in to take on the University of Miami. It's been a brutal series over the years. You had the Catholics versus convicts. You had that game where Ara Parseghian was screaming in the booth there when Jimmy Johnson ran up to score and was passing the ball, throwing bombs when he was up 50 points in that game over poor Jerry Faust. A lot of bad blood between the two programs. That seems to have dissipated since they haven't played, I think, in like 7 or 8 years. They resume this rivalry. Marcus Freeman comes in off an incredible run against the point spread. I think they won 11 in a row to close out the season, including the 3 playoff games against the spread. Yet, that being said, a lot of fanfare around Mario Cristobal's offseason. We know he's an excellent recruiter. He's used the transfer portal. They bring in Carson Beck. I guess the suspect thing there is that would Kirby Smart let Carson Beck go if he didn't think he had a better quarterback on the roster? So Carson Beck, who looked like he maybe was a little bit off the rails even last year at Georgia before the injury. Can he? We're in agreement that we both picked Miami yesterday on the show that we did, the gambling show that we have on Bleacher Brothers, and we were against the grain, against the curve there. It seems like most of the handicappers too are leaning towards Notre Dame in this game.
Yep. Which
I think it's a tough spot for Notre Dame to come in here, and I'm a Marcus Freeman fan as a person, but he also is capable of coaching blunders and looking bewildered on the sidelines. So while he may have polished up his act a little bit with that run they made last year, I think it's a tough spot for Notre Dame. I'm going to go ahead and take a shot with the University of Miami, and we may look like fools when we come back on Monday, but or Tuesday. I guess we'll do the next time show with Labor Day Monday. But what do you think? I know you were in agreement. You like Miami a little bit in this spot.
Yeah, and I'll tell you the reason why. Notre Dame came down here. It hasn't played a home game, but it's played 2 games in Hard Rock Stadium. They beat Penn State in the semifinal. A game that was kind of handed to them. I thought they was very competitive. Penn State looked like they were the better team on the field, and Aller made the terrible throw late in the game, setting up a Notre Dame game-winning field goal with a tie game. I don't know if that happens, but here's my thought on Carson Beck. Yeah, coming off a little bit of injury. Yeah, Georgia let him go. The money was there for him to make the move. Maybe something happened there behind closed doors, or maybe it wasn't that they didn't want him, or more that he wanted to leave. That's number one. Number two is this guy was projected high first-round pick going into last September. If you looked on all the certain draft boards, which I happen to do as a Giant guy, I was looking at a quarterback, and Carson Beck was a guy I was watching. He struggled, and I get that. Pressuring at Georgia is probably higher than as many as maybe Alabama's the only team who will have more pressure in front of them. But the Georgia fan base is really, really tough on these kind of things, and he was getting hammered. Get your way out of there, clear head, come down to Miami. I think the pressure's off the kid a little bit. The Miami Heat will you'll get fans here in Miami that kind of want what's better. But here's the thing about Cristobal. Can you consistently keep making these kind of mistakes? When do you learn from what you do? I watched the game live. I mentioned it yesterday when I saw what happened at Georgia Tech and almost cringed in my pants. Why was he doing that? I had to go rewind it and rethink. Can he take a knee? Can he take a knee when I watch games? Because you watch it for the kids. It's about the kids. you can't think to yourself, I want to, he got in the press conference and said, well, I thought we were getting some good momentum. I wanted to push the running game and all. Like, what's he
Dumbest
saying?
excuse I've ever heard.
Yeah, what's he saying? Like, he tried to justify it. So maybe there's people in his life, guys that he can look up to, and from a coaching standpoint, that are maybe a Nick Saban type guy that says, "Hey, maybe you ought to just protect your players, get out of there with a W. You have the talent, just keep playing." So I'm going to go against all the Mario Cristobal critics and say I think it's about to change for him, and I think it starts on Sunday. Teams with equal talent. I know everybody in that Notre Dame's that national loving program. I just got a sneaky suspicion that Miami comes down here and pulls something out of their hat. And I kind of, again, early on in the season, I kind of like being in the minority, Jeff. I kind of like everybody's on one side. I don't mind being on the other. And so that's my real thought here. The more people here on Notre Dame, the more I like my play.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that this is based on anything overly scientific. I just think it's a tough spot for Notre Dame. They have a new quarterback also. Riley Leonard wasn't my favorite quarterback, but he was effective. Didn't have a great arm. Cam Ward, Restrepo combination is gone for the University of Miami, and that was a dynamic component of their offense. Cam Ward probably bailed Cristobal out of a zillion other potential losses because of his brilliant play last year. Can Beck do that? We'll see. As I said, suspicions aroused by the idea that Kirby Smart is just that. He's smart and probably wouldn't have let this guy go if he thought that he didn't have somebody better, or he thought that this guy was capable of being in that maybe number one overall pick stature. So it's a suspect play. Obviously somewhat of a toss-up game as reflected by the point spread, but I'm inclined to take the points with the home team here. And I don't think that Mario Cristobal corrects his bozoic nature when it comes to play calling, because you can't have that happen to you. And not only that, but it took a subsequent series of miracles for Georgia Tech to pull that game out, which he was unable to protect. And he did the same thing in a loss to Syracuse, where he's up big and all he has to do is protect the lead, and he can't do it. I think when coaches are inclined to make these kind of mistakes, it just perpetuates itself over time. They never really learn from it. But you can't blow that. That's a game that you just can't lose. It's so fundamental. People were screaming for his immediate dismissal,
Yeah.
and I don't think they were off base in thinking that the first page of the playbook for any coach should be the victory formation.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to get into that, then there's something wrong with you. You're testing your freshmen to see if they can run the ball in that spot.
It started with the Giants going back. I hate to show my age, but in 1978, the Joe Pisarcik, the fumble game in the Meadowlands.
Right.
Miracle in the Meadowlands. It catapulted the Philadelphia Eagles to a playoff spot.
Yeah.
We could have taken a knee. We ran a play, and someone in the
Edwards picked it up. Yeah.
Yep. Just like Cristobal, Larry Zonka wanted to go hit somebody, so they tried to give him another run, and the ball went off a hip and picked up and running for a touchdown. And I never forget where I was. It's one of those time as a Giant fan. I was a young buck and all that stuff, but I remember it, and it changed the franchise.
When Kennedy was shot, but you do remember where you were when that.
That's right. Yeah, I was a vision, thank God, when Kennedy was shot. But the whole thing. But the real part of that whole point is that you really got to look at is when wins are so hard to come by on all levels of football. They're so important to your survival as a coach, to your player's psyche. You cannot ever put that on the ground again. And I would be absolutely shocked if I ever see anything close to that out of Cristobal again.
That's it. Gets in that situation.
Yeah.
Because if he does, then we probably accomplished the cover. All right, just real quickly, got about a minute left here, Mike Jones. And, of course, everybody's salivating over the prospect of betting on all of these football games. Anything on the baseball front to track?
Yeah, you kind of seeing last night that, the Astros get their big gun back, Alvarez and left. So I'm kind of looking at a run line bet. I don't want to lay all that wood, but Jason Alexander's been pretty good, and Freeland struggled. I kind of might lay the 1.5 runs with the Astros today. Usually don't like to lay 1.5 runs, but, in this particular spot I'm looking at it. And I think the Red Sox keep it rolling with Crochet again, laying 180 on the road. Again, I don't like taking these big favorites, but he's been really good. I know the Orioles been struggling, gave up a rough one last night, gave up a 2-run home run in the ninth inning to lose. And, that. And then our Marlins go up to the Mets, who are getting it going now. I don't know if there's a letdown tomorrow. I wouldn't know about that game, but I know I'm not laying 250, so I might take a small shot and grab the Marlins and take a crack at them. plus 220 against the Mets, just for argument's sake, to say that there might be that little emotional letdown after a big Philadelphia sweep. But yes, so those are 3 games I'm kind of looking at. I'll play around a little bit with, and we'll see. We'll have a big football weekend, and we'll get back to you next week and
Yeah.
see what happens.
All right, we'll do it again on Tuesday. You have a great Labor Day weekend, and
Right.
we'll see you guys tomorrow here on Bury Your Bookie as the professor will join us, and he's hugely plugged in on college football. Didn't do great win-loss last year in terms of the picks on the show, but is an incredibly sharp money manager. So all of his big plays seem to come through, and he ended up grinding out a profit, which is, let's face it, when things are going against you and you still end up a winner, that's sharp handicapping. So
Yep.
we'll have the professor with us tomorrow. Mike, you have a good one. Always a pleasure, my friend. And we'll talk to you soon. And everybody out there, enjoy the Thursday night full slate of football taking place on the college grid. And then, of course, a giant weekend with many marquee matchups. And hopefully we hit some of them for you, although I get the shakes every time I mention Mario Cristobal here. I don't. Can he find a way to bungle this game? That's my biggest fear is the crystal ball factor. All right, Mike, you have a good one. Everybody else out there, enjoy your day, and we'll join you again tomorrow, the next edition of Bury Your Bookie.